Hey gang, it's your pal Rob again, and welcome back to the playground. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the process behind a commission piece that I recently finished. This presented me with the challenge of painting wildlife, a musky fish, and I'll be honest, I've never really painted wildlife before. I don't generally paint animals, but I was excited to give this one a shot. There are space themes involved. However, I wanted the fish to stand out per the client's request. If you enjoy these time-lapse videos, please tickle YouTube's fancy and like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Also, if you'd like to support my Patreon or other forms of social media, you can find them via searching Rob's Mental Playground. Things are getting a bit fishy around here, so let's cast our lines and get to painting. Let's go. Let's kick things off with some prime time. Once that's finished, I lay down some drops of liquid mask and begin to build some sunset-esque colors. You'll see me occasionally move the piece, as well as place some cardboard pieces under it to continue my drop the paint and manipulate mantra. Slowly but surely, you'll begin to see the layers of color start to work together. In this scenario, I'm working light to dark, which I think works well when trying to replicate the intensity of a sunset. I don't want to go too dark too quickly here, as I plan to mask off an area for the sun, which I'd like to be an intense secondary focal point after we complete our fish later on. Speaking of which, let's make a decision and mask off where that area will be. I begin using more intense colors, while sometimes blowing with the straw to create some contrast and interesting organic shapes. I also work in some more marine blue color into the area from which our fish will be jumping. I begin to introduce some more intense, lighter hues around our sun shape to define it a bit more thoroughly, then remove all of the masks to reveal some new elements in the piece. Let's make some cool aurora shapes, shall we? I'm really starting to vibe with this technique. I add in a bit more color to these fields of light, and once I'm satisfied, I continue working on our sun area to develop it further. I'm focusing on the intensity and texture of this part of the piece now, and thicken up the paint. Let's start some work on the middle ground of this piece. I'm envisioning some Bob Rossian mountain and forest shapes. This will not only frame our future fish pal well, but it will provide an opportunity to really define our landscape. I also lay down some basic, flowing water elements, which will take shape as I lay down more paint. I block in some detail in the mountains and basic tree trunk forms, as well as add some color and depth to the water. Let's add some basic details to our trees. I'm using a 70 and 40 millimeter fan brush at this point. They lend themselves well to pine trees. I'm not worried about getting too intricate here, as our musky fish pal will be covering a large amount of this area. Let's go fishing and see what's jumping out of that water. I begin by laying a basic, dark base and a few minor details. This is followed by a wide, swooping brushstroke with a gradient of color that I jigsaw into some texture. Once dry, I rip some masking tape into organic strips to protect some of our shadows. I'm about to go full-on color on this fishy, so let's watch it happen. Let's move in for some more detail and get some areas of the head more defined. After that, I roughly mark off some areas where the gills and other sections of the fish exist and paint them in. I grab a thinner brush and sort of twirl it as I move the paint along to create a more organic scale color. This is pretty much all feel at this point. It's time to add some flippers. I lay out where I want the base colors to be, then gradually add some details to them. After a bit more detail work, it's time to paint the splash and establish energetic movement. To achieve the water effect that I'd like for this part, I begin with my typical dark to light approach, layering thicker and lighter paint and aggressively blowing on it to create a splash effect. I also contribute some more reflections in the main body of water. I add in a bit more shading to create the illusion of the fish's shadow on the surface of the water and add some shoreline highlights. After adding some final, aggressive white splash highlights, I work in some reflections and a few more details here and there before finishing the piece with a signature. The piece is now complete, and what an intense array of color it has. I'm happy to say that the client was thrilled with the final product. How do you feel about it? That'll do it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Support for my Patreon and social media is Rob's Mental Playground as always. Please check out some other cool videos if you'd like. There's one about some of my art history over to the right. Thank you so much for visiting the playground, and please, be kind to each other.